I think the issue is very logical. Is a problem what we face day in, day out. I happen to have been the secretary of Professor Dr. Phillips' study group on Nigeria tax system 2000-2003. And in the course of that 1 year work, we carried out a lot of surveys and identified this problem.
All right.
And made recommendations, and that's part of what is leading on to this particular reform. Is a scourge that has been a blight on economic progress, has been a blight on minimizing cost of doing business in Nigeria, and it needs to be tackled.
Well, some analysts are actually arguing that the new policy promotes over-centralization of tax matters at the federal level. Now, so much power is vested in the National Assembly with this. Now, do you agree with this position?
Incidentally, that was even one of the flagship recommendations of Professor Dr. Phillips' report, of which I was part of.
That it should be centralized.
But then, of course, those who are arch federalists will oppose it. That's against the norms of a federal state
system.
But they are missing one point. It is not as if to say that you have a centralized tax authority that it collects in the same way that we now do. For instance, crude oil sales, everything is of course centralized, and they now share across the board. What that recommendation is saying is that you have one tax authority so as to minimize all these double dipping arrangements. You collect, but you collect whatever you collect for a particular state is for that state.
Yes,
that is where that particular centralization is predicated on the fact that it just don't collect and put it to a central pool. Like for instance, in Lagos State, what is collected from individual residents and doing business in Lagos is collected and is remitted to Lagos State. Not that it will be put into a central pool for sharing, no.
But then how does that affect the way states will now, operate?
Now, for instance, it's like, for instance, say, Nigerian police force. You have a central police force. You have, deployed police deployed across the federation. You have a central authority, but the governor of any particular state is the chief security officer of that particular state. And he meets regularly with the commissioner of police and other heads of security agencies within that state and defines operational modalities for checking the peculiarities of security challenges of that state. So that is what is being said. So everybody will be part of that process. Whatever is collected for a particular state is for that state. As far as those revenues that are taken to be revenues for a particular state.
Okay.
As it is from the old ones that are cost-cutting revenues, which of course will go into central pool.
That means we're going to see a reduction from the present number of 97 that we have, because it seems like you already mentioned that when we started this conversation earlier, it seems like most of these taxes are duplicated. So are we going to see a merging, for instance, of 2 or 3 more to streamline the number to a number that, or yes, a number of taxes that seems workable for businesses?
Certainly, that's what it will lead to. But then also, don't forget that when people talk about taxes, some of these things that we call taxes are actual levies, which are like user, fees. But again, of course, it is important that they are rationalized, because multiple taxation and double taxation are not mutually exclusive.
Sure.
Double taxation is referring to taxing the same item twice.
We're using a different name.
But using a different name. It may not be a different name. One state taxes that same income.
They call it another name.
Yes. Yeah. Now, but multiple taxation, refers to the incidence now. There are different taxes, quite all right.
Sure.
Not duplication as such, but they are still wearing down on the same human being, on the same income. So the impact on the human being is the same, whether it is double taxation or multiple. But that's certainly there are different terminologies.
Well, Ayo, do you share the same view? Because we know that one of the main objectives of of a good tax system is income redistribution. Now,
sure.
Would you say that to a large extent that the Nigerian tax system has actually served this purpose of income redistribution?
No. The reason why I would say no is, especially to the manufacturer, I'm speaking from the angle of the manufacturer. When the manufacturer manufacture and you need to move your stock from Lagos or Ogun State to Enugu, to Onitsha, to Aba, And along the road, you fix so many of these so-called tax consultants appointed by either local government or the state government. And when you have such people on the road, immediately they cross you. When they block your vehicle, immediately they cross you. They will tell you, you have to pay mobile advert, you have to pay oil drill tax. So many lists they will give to you. And having subjected you to all this series of problems, they can even impound your vehicle for this before you get released. So, like my colleague said, I think if it is centralized and each state take a portion of what is collected on their behalf, it will go a long way. And it will bring sanity on our roads. It will bring sanity to the system. Because whereby, when you produce and you're unable to take your good to other states without any inhibition on the road, it's a great problem to manufacturers, apart from the existing one, which we're not talking about now.